I'm here tonight to present a black agenda. I call it a black agenda, not because it actually has a color. It has a calling. It is a calling to black people to get up and do something about our condition. It is a summoning of our leaders, our teachers, our organizations, our people, not to wait on Dukakis, not to wait on Bush, not to wait on another election. Wait no more on anything or anyone. Get up and get busy. Go to work and let us change the reality of our lives.
What's up, YouTube family? Welcome back to my space. This is Evans Rayola. Guys, thank you so much for tuning to watch this episode. I do not take your support for granted. So far, on today's video, we want to dive into Louis Farrakhan's one of the most powerful videos as he speaks about the black agenda. Have you ever wondered about the solution to the problems that black people face in America? Then this video will give you a blueprint to the solution of the problem. In this video, Louis Farrakhan speaks about the black agenda, calling for the black people to do something about their condition. He summons black leaders, teachers, black organizations, and people to change the reality about the lives of black people in America. Family, I want you to watch this video keenly as we try to uncover a problem that has been disturbing black folks in America for so many centuries. So guys, just listen to this video till the end. Once we get back, we will also do a critical analysis towards Louis Farrakhan's teaching. Let's watch this together, family.
I am here tonight to present a black agenda. I call it a black agenda, not because it actually has a color. It has a calling. It is a calling to black people to get up and do something about our condition. It is a summoning of our leaders, our teachers, our organizations, our people, not to wait on Dukakis, not to wait on Bush, not to wait on another election. Wait no more on anything or anyone. Get up and get busy. Go to work and let us change the reality of our lives. This is a political year, and I believe most of you are registered to vote. How could Mr. Dukakis want our vote absent a black agenda? You are the only people who don't demand anything, but give everything and get nothing in return. You are the only people that a candidate can come to you and say absolutely nothing and expect your vote. If this were a Jewish audience and I were running for president, wait just a minute, maybe I ought to rephrase that. Now, don't accuse me of any anti-Semitism. I would have to address myself to Jewish concerns forthrightly, honestly. I would have to answer their fears, their questions, their hopes, their needs, their wants. And if I answered well, I then might be able to expect their vote. Jews are intelligent enough to say to the Democratic Party, if you go too far with this Reverend Jackson business, we will leave this party and take our votes and our money elsewhere. They are not too weak or cowardly to use their strength as a leverage to get what they need and want from any political party or any political candidate. We are weak, cowardly, and spineless. We are afraid to say to the leaders of the Democratic Party, if you do not meet our demands, we will walk out of the party. That's right. Why can't you do that? Your leaders won't permit it. Because your leaders are like the Bible's Lazarus. They are not looking for a loaf of bread for themselves or for you. They are looking for the crumbs that fall from the rich man's table. And as a result, they can never be true to you because they're afraid that they will lose some of those crumbs. What are those crumbs? A political appointment, a judgeship, being the head of this department or that department, being visible in a new administration. These are crumbs that pacify and accommodate, but do not correct the problem of the masses of our people. We do not need any more pacification. We do not need any accommodation. We need a genuine solution to a 400-year-old problem that is not going to go away. We need a black agenda. We need an agenda that is broad, that is comprehensive, that goes beyond color, class, creed, an agenda big enough for all of us to stand on, and for all of our leaders and organizations to be able to form a united front. We need an agenda that Christians, Muslims, Hebrews, agnostics, Pan-Africanists, socialists, communists, atheists can stand on and feel comfortable that this is our agenda. This is what must be done. If not by the Democratic or Republican parties, this is something that must be done by us, for us, and for the future of unborn generations that our slowness to act will sentence to death. A black agenda, a calling, a summoning of black people to act responsibly for our own future. We already know that Reverend Jackson is not pleased with what has happened. You know that, don't you? You know that the Reverend ran the most magnificent race, held the most exemplary campaign of any presidential aspirant in the history of politics in this country. There is no doubt that Reverend Jackson set a new moral tone. Reverend Jackson lifted presidential politics above the fray of mudslinging, character assassination. He dealt with the issues in a way that let the world know here is a brilliant black man. Here is, yes, a qualified black man. Here is a son of slaves, ready to take his place in the history, to move a nation out of the dark ages. Reverend Jackson garnered 7 million votes. Reverend Jackson registered more people for the Democratic Party than any individual in the history of that party, only to get to the convention to be treated like we have always been treated, with callous disregard, disrespect. I sat there with joy in my heart, watching my brother deliver a magnificent speech. I sat there with joy in my heart, looking at his magnificent family, a living reality of what leadership at home and leadership abroad can accomplish. And I was proud of my brother. But I knew, as you know, when you wipe the tears from your eyes, that we came away not with something tangible, but we came away with a great intangible. He didn't get the vice presidency. Most of his minority planks were voted down. But there was intangible blessings for all of us because of that brother. Jesse was hurt, wasn't he? He was hurt when Mr. Dukakis chose a vice presidential running mate after having him come to Brookline, Mass. to have dinner with the Dukakises and on July 4th and hear a concert in the open air. And these are the games that people play with us. According to what I understand, they only talked 8 minutes on anything substantive. This was vintage Hollywood for you and me. Jesse was so hurt. He said, if I pick the voters and if I bail the voters and bring them up to the big house, I should be able to go in the big house and count the cotton. The statement hurt me. It hurt me because my brother is bigger than that. To reduce his work to a plantation metaphor is to reduce his hard striving to a slave mentality. And what is the mentality of a slave? The mentality of a slave is to sacrifice everything of self to be near his slave master. This is not about picking Negroes, bailing up a bunch of Negroes, carrying them up to the big house so that one of the Negroes can be invited into the big house to count the Negroes. That is a betrayal of a mental state of mind, an orientation of mind that will always keep us looking for but never accomplishing anything of worth. Beloved, I humbly say to you, you must get out of that sick mental attitude of a slave. I only want to be near white people. I want them to recognize me as their favorite retriever. I want to be able to be invited into their homes to sit at the dinner table with them and talk about serious matters. I just want white folk to pat me on the head and tell me what a good boy I am. I want to be near you. And so the Reverend Ben Hook said, we want access. Access? Access to what? To Fort Knox? Access to power? No! We want access access to the White House. We want to be able to go back and tell our constituents, this morning I had breakfast with the president. This morning we discussed the sad state of affairs of the world.
Make the truth. Make the truth.
This is destructive, but it is the condition of most of our religious, political, civic leadership. They don't want anything for the masses of black people. They want to be accepted as a lapdog in white society. This is wrong. How can we ever gain the respect of the civilized world until we show ourselves to be more self-respecting? I don't wish to be a lapdog in white society. I don't need the children of the slave master to pat me on the head and make me feel better. I don't need to be near white people to feel that I'm near power. Go ahead. Unfortunately, there is an inherent sickness in the philosophy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. that must be addressed by all of us as thinking, loving people. Without saying we don't love Dr. King, we love him. We adore him. We honor, respect him, and revere his memory. Yes, we do.
Yes, sir.
But we must look at a poison that is inherent in the philosophy of peaceful suffering and self-negation. Not self-denial as the master taught, but to negate myself, to negate the law of survival, to negate the law of preservation of myself and my people, to give it up, to make other people pleased with me, that I should lay down and let you beat me to death and not fight for the life that God gave me because I don't want to hurt a hair of your head while you are attempting to murder me and my whole people? I must be nonviolent?
Isn't that true?
That is a sick philosophy. That you must not be too cowardly to address in your lives. You are not nonviolent with anybody but white folks. In fact, you are so violent with one another till you are deathly afraid of each other. You don't want to live near one another because you are so violent and hateful towards yourself and your own people. But when it comes to those who have persecuted you all the days of your life, you have no courage, no will to take the lives of those who desire to take your life in the name of God. this poison that is inherent in our misunderstanding of religion is what incapacitates us and renders us helpless in the face of our enemies. We are incapacitated with a sick love of everybody else except ourselves. And so we can fight hard for Hispanics, we can fight hard for Arabs, we can fight hard for poor whites, we can fight hard for others, but when it comes to the little old winemaker us, there's always an excuse. And yet you claim to be good Christians. Was it not Jesus who said, love your neighbor as yourself? You cannot have neighbor love until and unless you have self-love. But how can you have self-love except there is a teacher to teach you the knowledge of yourself, that you may love yourself and then come into unity with self, that you may go to work to build for yourself until such teacher emerges. You will always be singing, we shall overcome one day. But that one day, your grandfather talked about. Your great-grandfather talked about. Your mama talked about. Now you talking about it. Now you're going to have your children singing it. We shall overcome one day. Well, if you overcome your hatred of yourself and replace it with the knowledge and love of yourself, then the day of your deliverance is at hand. Yes, sir. We shall overcome this day.
Family, the one thing that stood out for me in this teaching by Louis Farrakhan is the question he asked black folks in America. At some point he asked black people, what is our agenda as a people? What is our black agenda, to be specific? Because when many people come out during the campaign period, for them to be voted in as presidents, governors, they many a times come without an agenda for the black people. There is no leaders in America who come to office and try and solve problems, or rather the black grievances that are always the most in America. Louis Farrakhan calls for black people and black leaders to find a solution to our problems by having a black agenda. This black agenda would be given to leaders who aspire to be the next leaders. You know, once they see this agenda, they must do things according to the agenda of black people. For the longest time, we have never had an agenda as a people. Moving forward, he wants us, you know, as black folks, to have an agenda that these white supremacists, that any other leader who wants to take over office and needs our votes, you know, and needs our vote, must come and look at it and get to solve our problems for us to elect him or her as a leader. And that is what the black agenda is about. For the longest time, we've been treated badly. For the longest time, we've been discriminated. When you look at economically, there are a lot of economic disparities among black communities. You know, in America, this should also be the black agenda. If you are a leader and you want black people to vote for you, you should first ensure that black people get equal opportunities economically, that black people who are graduated can get, employment opportunities just like those of white colleagues or white counterparts. These are some of the things that black people should come together, have an agenda. If anyone wants to be a leader and needs our vote, he or she must be able to satisfy the needs of the black people in the black agenda. Minister Louis Farrakhan has spoken on the black agenda in various speeches over the decades, particularly focusing on self-determination, unity, economic empowerment, spiritual development, and justice for black people in America and globally. The other thing Louis Farrakhan spoke about, he says that we are the only people who do not demand anything. A presidential candidate can say nothing and expect our vote. We must demand something as a people. Enough is enough. And also, past are the days when we didn't have an agenda as a people. This time we must have an agenda. We need an agenda that is broad, comprehensive, and that goes beyond color, class, greed, an agenda big enough for us to stand on, an agenda that can solve all our problems. And I went further in my research, and here's what I found out. So Louis Farrakhan spoke of this from different perspectives. Number one, he spoke of it from a spiritual and moral rebirth. He called for black people, to reconnect with God and spiritual values. A call to repentance and righteous living as a foundation for liberation. If you want to be liberated in America, Louis Farrakhan also calls that we first try and be spiritually upright, even for us to get this liberation. We must be well with God. He also speaks, he says that Islam is often presented as a guide, but the moral messages applies broadly. Then he also spoke about this from an economic independence. He said that people should stop depending on white-owned institutions, build and support black-owned businesses. Try and support black-owned businesses. Give other black people opportunities. If you have a company, if you have a business, employ black people, so that black people may stop depending on white-owned institutions. He also said that people should pool resources through collective economics, e.g. farming, crops, and real estate, investment, manufacturing. We must do for self or perish. Did you hear how deep that is? We must try and do something for ourselves, or we will actually perish. We must have a black agenda. In our agenda, we need to empower black people. We need to ensure that we are close to God, that we are righteous enough even for God to liberate us. He also spoke about education and knowledge of self, the need for a curriculum that teaches black children their true history. Many a times the curriculum that have white ideologies, many a times they lie to black folk. They lie to our children in school. So he says that we should actually have our own curriculum that works with us, emphasizes on ancient African civilization and contribution to the world. And he also challenges the whitewashed education systems. We need our black education systems where we talk about our black history, because for the longest time the white supremacist has been working so hard tirelessly to ensure that now they are able to distort the original information about our history. That's the same thing they are teaching our children in schools. Even in Africa, when you look at the educational systems, many a times they are meant to fit, the colonizers. For example, in Kenya, the Brits, the education system Kenyans are using today are adopted from their colonizers, the British system. And many a times the stories they tell is actually a false story. And this calls for black people to ensure that now we change the education system and make it work for black children. Then he also calls for unity and brotherhood, urging unity across religious, tribal, and political and ideological lines. The idea that division is a tool of the enemy. Promote a collective identity rooted in black excellence and survival. We are not enemies, we are brothers and sisters, divided by lies and ignorance. Many times you'll notice that the things that are dividing black people today are actually things that are perpetuated by white power structures, from our ignorance. It's time that we come together, help each other out, man. Figure out things together, give each other opportunity, ensure that we uplift the black communities in America and all over the world. Farrakhan also spoke about justice and reparations. He says that America must answer for its sins against black people. And he also calls for reparation, land, and policy changes. And he also demands for an end to police brutality, mass incarceration, and systemic racism. You notice all these things are things that are affecting black people in America. And these are things that we should have in our black agenda. If we have, a blueprint that everyone else follows in America, that would mean that now we can be able to get a solution to our grievances, to our problems. Systemic problems that are perpetuated by white power structures can be able to end. When you look at these for international solidarity, connection with Africa and global black diaspora, that is what Louis Farrakhan is calling for. And he also calls for opposition to neocolonialism and exploitation of African nations. Look at many African nations. A lot of these heads of states are exploited, they are puppets of the West. Neocolonialism should also end. And he also encourages African Americans to play a role in the liberation of Africa. If Africa is not just a landmass, it's the spiritual and cultural mother of us all. So if black people in Africa are still answering to the West, then it will be difficult even for black Americans to thrive in America. There is need for a connection between black folks in the US and black folks in Africa to ensure that we get fully, independence. We get to sustain each other and be able to be fully sufficient as a people, self-sufficient, without having to depend to the white power structures and their Eurocentric ideologies. Fam, let me know in the comment section down below what you think about this video and the ideology of the black agenda. Do you think it's something that would work in the modern day? Because I understand this is a video from the late 80s, but I find it to be very, very nice and one that can inspire generations and can be able to educate the black community. Guys, like this video so that it can be recommended to other YouTube users, and I'd be very, very grateful. Lastly, kindly do consider subscribing to the channel. We are currently on the road to 50,000 subscribers, and guys, I'd really, really appreciate if you all came with your families and friends and share this video so that we'll be able to reach more and more people. The goal is to reach 50k subs soon and very soon. Guys, the goal of the channel has always been to talk about black stories, black history, and black empowerment, and just be able to create a platform where black stories are told by black people, because we all know if we give the supremacists, the white supremacists, an opportunity to tell our story, many a times they distort it and use it against us. So guys, let's share the video and support me, guys. Thank you, and see you all in our next episode. Goodbye for now.